Let's do this thing. Hello everybody and welcome to my review of T.Micheal Martin's The Endgames, a very interesting take on the zombie novel. One continual theme that keeps on jumping up in The Endgames is the video game to book relationship. There's a secondary kind of acknowledgement passed here forward, and it's rather poetic. Everything not saved will be lost. Poetic, yes? However, it's the Nintendo quit screen message. This kind of idea is echoed a lot in the book, incorporating video game elements into the story. Now, speaking of the story, let's jump right in. Unlike many zombie novels, it doesn't really deal a whole lot with the world as a whole. Your view in the book is pretty centralized onto the East Coast USA, specifically West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, that kind of area. Because the scope of this is so small, it really feels a bit more like a stage in a play. So now let's go into characters. The first character we meet is Michael and his brother, Patrick. They have a very interesting hidden backstory that, for the sake of giving too much away for those of you who haven't read Endgames, I'm not really going to talk about, but it is a really interesting and original backstory for a zombie novel. Patrick, Michael's little brother, our secondary main character, has some kind of mental problem. He's constantly on the verge of freaking, whereupon he yells and screams and then shuts down. Pretty much a worst case scenario for someone in a zombie book. So our main character, Michael, has to constantly deal with having this mentally challenged younger brother. And while he's trying to do all of your standard adventure things like, battle the zombies, figure out who's lying, he also has to take his brother into consideration. So he's kind of towing him along for the first half of the novel. And it isn't until the second half, around chapter 15 or so, that his brother starts making some decisions on his own that changes the game. Might even say it flips the board. Okay, so it's a teen novel, it's the apocalypse, there has to be a love interest, right? Yeah, because there has to be. Now in this book we have this group of predominantly male survivalists with one female. So of course it's inevitable to anyone who's read a whole lot of teen fiction that the guy and the girl are going to end up together and, that whole kind of deal. What's refreshing is how Holly is written. For one, she isn't the maniac pixie dream girl who rescues him with a machete and he looks into her glorious blood-splattered face. She actually is imperfect, and though she is the only girl, and you think that, of course, it's inevitable they're going to end up together, she actually is kind of a, I don't want to say absent-minded, but she doesn't really have as much as a grasp of the current situation. She's imperfect. She has flaws. It's realistic love. As realistic as it can get in the zombie apocalypse novel. What really makes this book stand apart from a lot of other zombie apocalypse novels is that it's story-driven, not apocalypse-driven. Though they're trying to get to a safe zone, it's a good book because of the interactions between the characters and all these unusual things thrown in. The younger brother, the unperfect romance, the character, you could call him the bad guy, but he isn't really bad. He does save them, as he constantly reminds them. It's just, when does he take being a leader too far? I just didn't like him because he's so well written, it was realistic. That's nice. The video game illustrations bring it even further. For example, when he first describes the zombies in the first chapter of the book, the first thing I thought of was Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time in the main town square. Give me a hug. You'll get it if you play the game. To help his mentally challenged brother cope, Michael tells his brother that it's all a game. 10 points for a soup can, or right before someone dies, 10 points for covering your eyes, to try to keep his little brother from freaking out. They call themselves gamers, bringing the whole game idea really together and making the book's title, The Endgame, make a lot more sense. On his Tumblr, he said that he wrote all the action sequences to the Endgames while listening to the soundtrack from E.T. So if you want a more three-dimensional and to appreciate the book better experience, try putting on this song, which he told me on Tumblr is what he helped write it to, and then read the last chapters. It adds this whole nother element when you're reading the story. So in the end, you really shouldn't read Endgames for a zombie novel. You should read it for a character development and a well-written story that doesn't follow the conventions that other zombies in their fictitious worlds have really set forth. I would rate this as a zombie book pretty close to Bone Shaker's second and third sequels, Dreadnought and Gwyneth. If you haven't read them yet, they're absolutely fantastic. They're by Sherry Priest. I'd put this about with them. Another interesting fact that you might like to know is that on September 7th, it's a Saturday, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, he will be at the Bookmarks Festival. Well, I'm going to be there, so if you want to meet him, and also if you guys want to meet me, be at the Bookmarks Festival. I'll be wandering around. His Tumblr and his YouTube will be down there in the description, so go and check it out. There's dust on the lens. See you guys next time. Bye!